and I have you get clear about your goals, but I have a formula. I'll just give it to you right now. This is the simple version of it. And this is how I have been able to create so many big outcomes in my life. First of all, I just said this earlier today to someone. Every big goal I've ever made, at the moment I made it, I had no idea how I was going to accomplish it. I have never let that deter me from going for what I want. So you get very, very clear about what precisely do you want. Second step, then you ask the why question.
I'm Ken Newhouse. To me, building a profitable business isn't only about generating leads and driving sales. It's about who we are and what we're made of. I succeed in business by finding the most effective methods to persuade, inspire, and ignite the imagination of others, and find the most effective methods to persuade, inspire, and ignite the imagination of others to succeed in business. I am the new breed of entrepreneur. Join us on the quest as we search for the newest and most effective methods you can use to get clients now. Has the COVID crisis made it difficult to attract new clients into your business? Are your tried and true client acquisition strategies failing you? Is your inability to attract clients and generate revenue creating stress and tension in your life? Even worse, do you feel stuck, even paralyzed, because you're not certain how to get your business back on track? What if Google and social media sites like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter came out with another wacky, nonsensical policy and told you that in only 7 days they were going to enact a new policy that severely restricted you from promoting and marketing your personal and business brand on their platforms? What if radical elites take over our country and tools as important as email marketing begin to be heavily regulated, and that in order to continue using them, you would have to pay significant amounts of money in the form of taxes to the government? While those scenarios hopefully never come about, they're well within the realms of possibility. Even if a single one of those scenarios took place, think about it. What would that do to your business? And more importantly, what effect would that have on your business over the next 12 months? In episode number 371 of the Get Clients Now podcast, I told you about the story where I was at a seminar a few years back when the featured speaker began his presentation by asking what I thought was a totally off-the-wall question. He asked, "What color is a stop sign?" The audience shouted, "Well, red, of course." And then he asked, "What color is a yield sign?" And to my great surprise, 75% of the room said yellow, which was wrong. Yield signs are red with a white center. The reason I shared that story with you is simple. Not everything is as you remember or think. That's known as the Mandela effect. So perhaps it's time to reconsider those limiting beliefs you have about what it takes to keep or make your business profitable again while you're in the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm your host, Ken Newhouse, and if you answered yes to any of the questions I opened the show with, if the thought of Google or any one of those social media platforms clamping down even more on how you're allowed to market your personal and business brand, or if somehow the liberal elites get into power and, as promised, start taxing our emails, today's episode is going to show you several exciting and effective ways you can use to make your business profitable again. My guest today is JV Crum III, author of the runaway bestseller Conscious Millionaire and host of one of the most downloaded podcasts in the history of iTunes. And during the show today, JV is going to reveal the secret goal-setting formula he used to sell over 50,000 copies of his book Conscious Millionaire, generate over 12 million downloads of his podcasts, and make his business even more profitable in the heart of the COVID-19 crisis. And so if you're ready, let's go ahead and bring JV in on the show. And as I covered his introduction in the bio, we've got Mr. JV Crum III, author of the runaway best-selling book Conscious Millionaire. It's been downloaded over 50,000 times. That's just the digital version. It's been downloaded over 50,000 times on Amazon. And JV's also the host of multiple podcasts, the longest running of which is Conscious Millionaire. And over the 6 shows, he's published over 2,300 episodes with over 12 million downloads. So JV, on behalf of myself and the members of the Get Clients Now Nation, I want to welcome you to the show today. How you doing?
I am fabulous, Ken. I've just decided to be in Boulder for a month and decide if I want to move back to Boulder from Denver because this little COVID thing. I've been talking to so many people, Ken, who live in big cities. I mean, Denver's 4 million people, and there's nothing to do. Like, I'm a guy who goes out 3 or 4 nights a week, but all the things that I go out and do in the music places, they're all closed. So I said, maybe I should just go back to Boulder, where I've lived before, very socially conscious, but I'm 10 minutes from being in the mountains. And I'm an outdoors guy. So I'm going, well, if you can't go to a concert, maybe you should just go to the mountains and just go live there for a year or two.
Incredible. Boulder is absolutely stunningly beautiful.
It is. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. And I've lived here before, and I'm going, didn't think I'd live here again, but here I am.
There you go. So anyway, if you could, I like to start off each episode. I'm pretty sure that most of our members, people who are in the Get Clients Now Nation, our listeners, our fans, are very familiar with you and your work. I mean, you're prolific, you're ubiquitous, you're all over the internet. Virtually everybody in business who's successful knows who you are. But for those who don't, if you could, take a minute or two and give us your backstory and give us what we need to know.
Yep. Well, the short version is I grew up out in a little country town, like 200 or 300 people. We didn't have any money, but neither did anybody else. And at age 5, Ken, I said to myself, what is the solution to when we go to the grocery store, my parents can't buy me a candy bar? In fact, I was trained not to ask for it. And I said, I know, I'll become a millionaire. And I ran in the house and told my parents, like I discovered water. My mother shook her finger at me and said, don't tell anybody. So I told everyone, because that's what a 5-year-old does. But by 25, really shortcutting the story, I was buying a millionaire, buying a 4-story home, had the Mercedes on the water. And about 3 months later, I literally had, I'm 26 now, I had a total meltdown one day and realized, I said to myself, something's wrong with this picture. I don't like myself. I'm horrible at relationships. All I figured out was how to make some money. I didn't want to give the house back because I had grown up poor. But I said, there's something more to this story, and I definitely don't know what it is. So I spent a lot of time digging, going to Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, sweat lodges, spiritual retreats. And what I finally realized, what was missing is that I wasn't living any deeper purpose. I had figured out the outside parts, but I wasn't connected to myself, and I wasn't living with purpose. And I sold the companies, and I went off and I lived at a Buddhist monastery to find my spiritual self and meditate. I went to Esalen, which is on the Big Sur coast. It's where the human potential movement began, and did a work study there. And then I moved to Boulder, where I'm back in Boulder, which I kind of call the big Buddhist monastery, socially responsible, personal growth. And I'd go camping for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. I call it asking the universe. I'd go, okay, I sold the businesses. I've got all these skills. What am I supposed to be doing with my life? I'm a seeker at this point. I'm looking for my purpose. I found it actually I was technically staying in Reno, but Lake Tahoe. I went there to ski for the winter. And I went over to San Francisco, and I was walking around. You know, every city has racks of these free magazines. And I saw something, and it said the Green Festival. Now, at that point, I didn't know what sustainability was. I'd never heard any of this stuff. But it spoke to me. I picked it up, put it in my SUV. That Sunday, I went back to the place I'd rented, which was really nice, had a hot tub. I'm a hot tub guy. I get in the hot tub, kid, and I'm thumbing through about 100 pages, and I see the word conscious. Now, I'm highly intuitive, and I get most of it visually, sometimes with a kinesthetic piece to it. And literally in my forehead, I saw the phrase conscious millionaire. I got a tingling in my spine, and I said to myself, that's it. That's why I'm on the planet. And I stayed in the hot tub for about 40 more minutes. And when I got out and I was walking, I knew consciousmillionaire.com was waiting for me. And as I was walking to my computer, I actually said to myself in a very insightful and I think accurate way, I just got my assignment. Like, I'm on the planet. I'm here for a reason. I've been traveling a while and didn't know what it was. Of course, consciousmillionaire.com was there. Being a good attorney, I filed my trademarks, and the rest in a way is history.
Throughout your day, you make numerous choices in your business and in your life. At the conscious level, you make hundreds, if not thousands of choices every single day. At the unconscious level, you make an incalculable number of choices daily as well. Whether small or massively significant, every choice is a decision that affects the results you achieve.
That's how Conscious Millionaire, it was an inspired thought, and I just knew it was what I was supposed to father, what I was supposed to be doing with my life. And I couldn't be happier every day. I just talked to people earlier today that I think are going to become clients and want to make their business more conscious. And it just fills me with joy, literally. to help people make more money doing something they're passionate about, feeling there's a purpose to it, that at the end of the day, they didn't just put money in the bank. They're fulfilled. They're happy. They feel like what they're doing matters. And that to me is the direction I hope all business will go, because when we're on fire about who we're helping and the transformation, not just the transaction, and we're putting money in the bank, I'm going, how much better could life get?
It's a fascinating story. And that actually leads me, JV, into my next question. What's something about you that the marketplace typically doesn't know, but you'd like them to know?
Oh, that I'd like them to know. Well, there's so many different stories because I'm very open. I think a lot of people know I was sexually abused, and I've been very open about that and supportive of people doing their healing journeys. Something else people don't know. Well, I'll tell you my next vehicle, because I don't think many people know that. I turn in my Lexus, which for me was a disappointment. And I already have it all selected. I'm just down to 3 colors. I'm getting a Rubicon Wrangler, so I can do off-roading because I like to camp. I like outdoors. I like hiking. But here's and the 3 colors, by the way, the one that has the most votes from me so far is the granite gray metallic, because it's kind of classic and it's not going to show dirt and it's not going to show scratches. But the white and the silver are also nice. But here's what's fabulous. 2 weeks ago, a Jeep announced that in December, so I've got 2 months for them to get them in, plenty of them in their showrooms, they're coming out with their hybrid Wrangler. So I'm going to get the hybrid version, which will get much better gas mileage and give me more time to get lost in the mountains.
There you go. What's the spark that led you? You've got the Conscious Millionaire book, which is, again, a runaway bestseller. You've got several iterations of the Conscious Millionaire podcast. And like I said, you're starting your 7th season. You've got almost 1,600 episodes, or over 1,700. Fill me in on that one real quick.
We've got over 2,300 episodes because I've actually created a total of 7 shows. Only 3 of those are active right now. I mean, some of them ran for 2 and 3 years, and I kind of got what I wanted to do with them done. But because of that, we actually have over 2,300 episodes.
Okay, so between those, I was kind of focused on your primary podcast that you started with.
Yeah, the primary podcast is the Conscious Millionaire Show.
Yeah, and just to be fair, if you're listening, I went on recently and I actually told JV this, and this was the hiccup I mentioned earlier. When I first discovered JV's podcast, it's when I would when I would check iTunes for my podcast under Get Clients Now, and his podcast kept coming up when I was early on. And I'm like, who is this guy? He's got like 1,500, 1,600, 1,700 5-star reviews on his show. And then I checked again the other day in preparation for this podcast, and he's lost virtually all of those.
Yeah. So what happened? It was actually January. I went back. We were talking about that. So iTunes changed their software slightly, but iTunes, I have to say, everything Apple does is fantastic, but how they handle iTunes, they don't do a good job. So they changed their software slightly about how we were supposed to put the information in about the show, but they don't bother to tell you have to do that. And so because of that, we actually had our show banned from iTunes for about a week while I went absolutely crazy, and finally was able to figure out what was wrong. It was just where we were putting the information. And then we did that, resubmitted it. They put it back up, but they would not put up past episodes. They wouldn't put up all the rating and reviews. They destroyed them. Then COVID came. So I went, okay, I got a lot of listeners, but that's what happened. And it's interesting because that could happen to anybody. It was just a software fluke that we didn't know they wanted literally the number of the show to be somewhere else.
Yeah. So my point in saying that is if you go to check out, which I highly recommend you do, his podcast, a couple months back, it had a couple thousand 5-star reviews. Now it doesn't show hardly any at all, but that's not reflective. That is not a true and accurate representation of the quality and longevity of his show. But you can find it on his website, consciousmillionaire.com. You can see, like tons and tons and tons, thousands of shows that he has for the various podcasts. But JV, you kind of touched on it earlier, but I wanted to ask you a more pointed question. You talked about being in the hot tub and, coming to that realization. Was there an additional spark or something that really stands out to you that said, hey, write a book, hey, start a podcast? Or did you just come up with that on your own?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, the book was a long journey. It was 7 years. I rewrote it 7 times. I got extremely sick, twice with mono. And each time the book was finished, and then I'd lay in bed for 3 or 4 months and I'd rewrite the book in my head. So then I had to go rewrite it again, drove my editor crazy. And then my father died, and that took out a whole year on the book. And then I almost died from a fungus infection. And then we finished the book. Now, what's interesting is that the podcast has a much more inspired journey. And in fact, I just recorded my show that came out today, previewing the seventh season, was titled How I Produced 2,300 Episodes in 6 Years. And Jamie Tardy, now Jamie Masters, who had Eventual Millionaire, and I were at a New Media Expo together in New York City. It was either June or July of 2013. And she asked me, would you be a guest on my show? I said, sure, having no idea what I just said, sure. And I was, and it came out in September, and it changed my life in part because in 3 days, I got calls from people who hired me and paid me right up front $23,000 to coach them. And I said, wow, this podcast stuff is cool. I think I want to be on more podcasts. And so I went about the process of getting on a lot of podcasts. Then New Media Expo had its next event the first weekend of 2014 in Las Vegas, and I was there. And my book was pre-pub, and all that means is the back of it has different information for publishers and reviewers. So I took a case, 42 books, with the entire goal of going to this event to get on as many podcasts as I could. But at registration, they gave us the booklet for everything, and all except the first one, I went to Pat Flynn's. The breakout sessions all had a podcast. And I went to a pre-party that night with a lot of podcasters whose shows I'd already been on. And I'm talking to them. And when I woke up the next morning, I said, JV, you're doing a podcast. Did not intend that. And then I felt almost like a calling. And I went back, I talked to my team, and I said, I don't know why or how, but I am supposed to do a podcast, kind of like Conscious Millionaire came to me. And I said, and it's going to be huge. And I don't even know why. We started recording July 8th. Launched September 16th. I already had 62 shows in the can, which is probably some kind of a record. So I launched 5 days a week because I had so many shows. We had 30,000 downloads the first month. We had 150,000 the second month. And you can look at it two ways. You can say, I was in the right place at the right time with the right message. You can also look, and I think they're both true, that it was a lot of synchronicity and that I was following my path, that I had the intuition to do this, and that I was right, and that everything was aligned, and this was what I was supposed to be doing. And it's just been a success road ever since then. So there are lots of things I've done to make it successful, but I think part of it was just the synchronicity of the moment that this was what I was called to do and get this message out.
You know, JV, in the book, you start off in the very first chapter after the introduction by introducing the Conscious Millionaire formula for creating wealth. And I'd like to know, it was kind of curious to me, I don't know, my mind's kind of weird like this, but why did you start off, first of all, what is it? Kind of break it down. I know there's kind of three legs to this.
Right.
But why did you feel the need to start the book off talking about this particular framework?
So let me give you the framework and tell you, I sat down and my editor, who's really great, she said, you've got to tell people your story. And so I thought about it. And one of the great things of writing a book is you figure out what you've been doing, because so much of what all of us do is intuitive. It's a habit we created and it works, but we don't even know what we're doing. So I went back and I said, well, how did I become so successful so quickly and literally so young? And I said, well, I was really doing two things. Every day I ask myself, what is it I need to do to move things forward? And when I broke that down, it was conscious, focused action. When I really thought through it, I became conscious of a result to get. I got totally focused on it and I took action, but it wasn't any action. Each of those parts has 3 steps. I really broke it down into, this is the action I should take in this order, go do it. And I did. And the other thing was what's in chapter 7, which is Millionaire in Our Zone, being in the flow, being in synchronicity, is that I was just living in that flow of being totally focused in the zone, and I would just get inspired ideas.
JV's formula for business success is based on 3 important steps. conscious, focused action. Think of these 3 steps as the skills to develop and master if you want to consciously transform your business so it can become more successful than ever. JV's model provides a visual representation of the formula. Number 1, the first level is conscious. At this level, become conscious of the specific result you desire. The second level is focus. At this level, focus on your desired result so you can stay on track to achieve it. And the third level is action. At this level, you want to take actions focused on assuring you attain your result.
And that's been going on really my whole life. That's how I live. That's what I teach my clients, how they should live. And because of that, because of the formula, I wanted to create a model. So the rest of the model is conscious, focus, action, results. And what did you learn? And I realized I wanted a technology that went all the way through the book. And that's why I start with it, because there are 14 different versions of that pyramid throughout the book that helps anyone reading the book apply the material in every chapter.
Yeah, actually, I saw that and I'm like, there's no possible. I mean, you can never go through someone's entire book. So you have to kind of be selective with what you choose. And
Right.
I'm like, let me just grab the ones that I think that are pivotal, that are, everything else is kind of built on. So I do want to come back and ask you about the second framework you talked about. But one of the questions that I love to ask my guests is kind of a little deeper why, but why did you write the book Conscious Millionaire? And what were you hoping, you talk about making a difference.
Yeah, the title is Conscious Millionaire, Grow Your Business by Making a Difference.
What difference were you hoping to make in the lives of, why did you write it? And what specifically, if you could nail that down, what difference were you trying to make in the lives of the people who read the book?
I'm going to tee that up just slightly. So because I'm an attorney, that actually influenced how I wrote the book. And because undergrad, I was pre-seminary at one point, and my undergrad minor was philosophy and religion, which is basically logic systems for all practical purposes. So first of all, I knew from that get-go that I was building a movement. I just knew that. And I knew that the first book needed to be basically encompass the philosophy of what this was all about. And so it's 320 pages. And to the best of my knowledge, there's not one sentence that's inconsistent logically with any other sentence. And in every chapter, I build logically. So I wrote it as if it were a 320-page argument. Like a lawyer, you're in front of the jury's your reader. And what I wanted that reader to say at the end of the book was kind of I can't imagine doing business any other way. So I wanted to inspire people to realize that business can be more than, just how do I get people to buy from me, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs ask that question, as opposed to how can I impact people so massively that all they want to do is buy from me because I changed their life. I didn't just transactionally interact with them, I transformationally interacted with them. And that's what I wanted to do with my book, is to take the reader on a journey and say, here's a whole way to do business. Here's the habits. Here's your business model. Here's what leadership is about. Here's how to get into an abundance mindset, which is critical. So I wanted to give them a handbook on how they could take this. And as you know, at the end of every chapter, there are these exercises, that was a whole lot of work in and of itself. But I've read so many books. And at the end of the book, I can't actually do anything I couldn't do on page 1. I might be inspired and think it's a great idea. So I wanted to give people very practical, I'm very results focused. Here's how you take the material from this chapter. Here's the exercise to do. Here's how to apply it to your business so that people can actually use this to build and grow their business.
Yeah, I like that. There's a lot of books out there that give good information, but there's not a hands-on aspect to the book to actually show you how to do it. Or in fact, there's no story explaining and walking someone through how you actually accomplish something for yourself. And that leads me kind of to my next question. Earlier we mentioned COVID.
Right.
I had COVID. My wife had COVID. I infected my elderly parents, my sister. I mean, thank God we got through it. But, a lot of business owners have either gone out of business. They've either had their business knocked down dramatically. It's just struggling to get by. Others are doing okay, but the radical, awesome growth they were experiencing back in, say, January and February, still yet, they're not back to that point. And so I wanted to know, when a person decides to read your book, or decides to participate in one of your coaching programs, and I know you've got a couple and we're going to talk about those in here in just a bit, but what are 2 or 3 benefits that a person could reasonably expect to get in their business that might help them in relation to the problems I just described relative to the COVID-19 crisis by reading your book and then also taking it a step further with your coaching?
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's a great question. First of all, I want to set the framework because it's something I've been talking, and a lot of my clients have had to do this, is this is a time to pivot. More than ever, what you need to be crystal clear about is who really is that market. And a market, to me, starts from the interior. So one thing people are going to get, and this is in chapter 4, just to reference it in case you want to look at that, is chapter 4 is finding your true north, is that there are 2 ways to build a business. When I got my MBA, it was all about go into the marketplace, find a gap, you could call it a want or a need that's not met, figure out how to meet it, and build a business. I think while trillions of dollars have been made that way, what's missing? The person, the entrepreneur, the founder. So I go, no, that's the outside in approach. And then you finally get to you because you own it. And then what happens, because that's how I made my first money, is you end up miserable. I did, and a lot of people I've met ended up miserable, but they made money, right? They got the house, the Mercedes, and all that. You can have all of that, and you can be happy and fulfilled and feel like what you're doing matters, but you have to start on the inside. And my book tells you how to do that and build a business from identifying what is my purpose? What is the passion that I have? And therefore, what's the vision or the difference I want to make with my business? Then go out in the marketplace. And I tell you exactly how to do that. Go out in the marketplace and find that niche that already has the problem to which your difference is the solution. So you're just starting with you and the solution rather than the problem. And then you go find the problem. But you need to find that group of people that not only they have the money and they're eager to work with you, those are 2 criteria, but you really want to wake up in the morning and work with them. Because here's what I can tell you. You don't need to settle. I don't believe in settling, and I don't believe in compromise. I believe in getting clear about what you want and then go make it happen. Get aligned with it and go out in the marketplace. And so that's one thing they're going to clearly get. Another one is I talk about goals differently than anybody I've ever met. And I have you get clear about your goals, but I have a formula. I'll just give it to you right now. This is the simple version of it. And this is how I have been able to create so many big outcomes in my life. First of all, I just said this earlier today to someone. Every big goal I've ever made, at the moment I made it, I had no idea how I was going to accomplish it. I have never let that deter me from going for what I want. So you get very, very clear about what precisely do you want. Second step, then you ask the why question. Why is this so important to me? How is my life going to change? How is other people's lives going to change? How is my impact going to be bigger? Whatever your why is, only after you've asked those 2 questions do you ask, how am I going to do it? And if you can't figure out how to get that goal in the time period you want, then I have a series of tricks, so to say. One is you chunk the goal down, but you don't ever get rid of the whole goal. You just go accomplish a part of it. Or you change the time period, or you realize you need some more resources. You need some people on your team, but you never, ever relinquish the goal. And that's what happened to me. I was a 7th grader. They labeled me as stupid because I came from the country and had bad grades, and they put me in remedial classes. So I was the last person you'd think was going to do well in school. But at the end of that year, I didn't like the story. So you have to always be asking yourself, is this the story I want to live? And if it isn't, change it. And I did. I said, there's got to be a way to make an A. And so I studied it on my own. I figured out how to make an A. And my first semester of high school for me then was 10th grade. I got my report card at the end of the semester and I had a 4.0. And I remember exactly where I was standing on that school campus. And within 2 seconds, I said, I'm going to be the valedictorian. And I was. But I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew, I got this 4.0. I'm going to figure out the rest, right? And a little extra thing I did, I now realize, and I do it intentionally now. Like when I set goals, I don't hide them. Go out and tell the whole world. I told everybody in that school, all my classmates, I told all the teachers, I'm going to be valedictorian. I claimed the ground, and it was kind of like, don't even think about it. You don't have a chance because this is my territory. And I claimed it and I owned it and I got it. And you can do that in a way that is still respectful of other people. You're just owning that you're going to go do it. So those are some of the things you're getting out of my book, the mechanics of how you actually do that.
Okay, here's a follow-up question again, and it's not part of my scripted questions, but you mentioned about the pivot, which I think is absolutely critical. But let's just assume for a second, I want to keep your answer kind of encapsulated and kind of short.
Okay,
if you could.
Well,
let's assume we've got an individual listening to the show and they're like, I need to pivot. I agree, but I don't know where to pivot to. I don't know where to go find that next ideal, perfect prospect, perfect market, or as good as it needs to be to support my business. What are 2 or 3 quick suggestions you could give them on how to research that and kind of figure that out?
Well, I'm going to give something away later in the show, tell you about stuff I'm doing. This is going to help answer that question.
Okay.
So I want you to go get an audio. I create hypnotic audios. I've got 9 years of NLP training, and I've just been creating them since COVID. And this is my 6th one. I give them away to the world because I want people to have them. And this one's called Born to Make Millions. And you can get it at consciousmillionaire.com/make millions. So that's consciousmillionaire.com/make millions. Now, it sounds like it's only going to be about money, but it's actually not. In it, it reprograms your mind to realize that the way you're going to get this is exactly what you just asked, kid, is to go out there and discover that big problem your clients now have. So part of this is you've got to do a little research. I have been remessaging throughout the COVID as I find out what people really want, because it's not the same thing they wanted 6 months ago.
No, it's changed dramatically.
Right. It's the same clients, but I've gone out and said, okay, now tell me what you want. Like I met with somebody today, they want to redo their business to make it conscious, right? But when we got down to everything, they need more leads and they're not closing them. I went, oh, so let's work on that problem because you're bleeding. And in the process, we'll transform your business to what you want it to be. But let's go get the right clients, the ones that fit your new model. But we need to work on you getting more clients and closing more people. So the last part of that answer, to keep it quick, is this is a massive shift in your perception. People talk about limiting beliefs. Let's put that aside. That's the top of the iceberg. What you're really doing with deep mindset work and what this hypnotic audio will help you with is changing your perception of who you are. So you're super empowering yourself to find new solutions. And part of those solutions is looking at what the new problems are. And that's the pivot right there.
Sweet. That's good. And so with respect to the conscious focused attention model, with any model, and your model, I have to say, is very, very effective. But with any model, I don't care how effective it is, there are going to be people who, due to no fault of the framework, due to no fault of yours, but there are going to be people who use it and they fail. What would be a couple, 2 or 3 reasons that a person could use your model? And I'll just give you the first one as kind of a primer. They didn't follow the directions.
Right. That's kind of what I was going to start with, because it's a pretty clear model and it's step by step. And it's specific because in the conscious section, for instance, let's take 30 days from now, you've got to know the number one priority that you're going to achieve, that one result above all others, and why you chose it, who you might need for additional resources, and how are you going to get there? If you don't know that, you're going to fail, period. And most entrepreneurs skip that first step. That's what I found. They want to go, and I love Tony Robbins, but they only heard the part about massive action. They didn't hear any of the rest. It's like, oh, I got to go take massive action. And go, not until you know where you're headed, because of that.
JV's formula has helped countless businessmen and women go from stress and struggle to becoming more successful than they imagined possible. Consistently applying the 3 steps of his model can help you instantly begin the process of transformation in your results, and more specifically, in the success and profitability of your business. You can use this formula to achieve any result you desire in your business and life. JV's formula isn't just for achieving financial wealth, It's also designed to help you attain any type of professional or personal success you desire.
You're out driving your car, but you have no destination, So one of it is they're not clear about their destination. And without that, everything you do is going to be probably worthless. And it might be counterproductive. It might be worse. You might be going the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to, because a lot of times, it's real simple. It's almost like just add water, hold you by the hand. And let me say this before I forget. I always want to remember this. As with every guest I have on my show, I've been doing this for about a year now. JV's book, Conscious Millionaire, and I'm going to do this with the coaching program later, but the book and the coaching program are guaranteed by me personally. You're going to invest in JV's book. You're going to use what he gives you as he tells you to do it. It's going to benefit you greatly. And if you can't say that, it's going to be worth multiples of what you invest. Not only the money, because the money's relatively meaningless. It's just a few bucks, but your time. You can never get more time.
That's right.
That's a big deal. I understand that. And having said that, I'm going to guarantee it. So you're going to benefit immensely from reading and using his book. And if for any reason you do that in earnest and can't say that, email me at customerservice@kennewhouse.com and I will reimburse you for the book. And in fact, even the coaching program. But with the coaching program, it's going to be a little different because JV is going to hold your feet to the fire. If you sign up and never do any of the work, you sign up and never attend, obviously, I'm not going to guarantee that. You actually have to participate and do the things that he gives you. But if you do that, I'm so confident that you're going to get fabulous results that I'm going to guarantee that program as well. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Having said that, let me move into my next question because we're running real short on time. Between all your podcasts, I think you've got over 12 million downloads. Now, for me, I've got a couple million on Dental Town, but that's a whole different audience. I just hit 100,000 downloads for 2020. I only do one show a week. So for me, that was like pretty cool.
Congratulations.
But 12 million is, that's a whole different ballgame. You've been doing this quite a bit longer than I've been doing it, but I don't think in my lifetime I'll ever hit 12 million downloads. But how does a person build not only one podcast, but multiple podcasts that end up with in excess of 12 million downloads? That's just incredible.
Well, I'm going to give you two answers. One, if you go to consciousmillionaireshow.com and you listen to episode 1860 on that show, I talk about how I produced 2,300 podcast episodes in 6 years, and I give you 12 secrets. So we obviously can't do all that because that's a 40-minute show, and you can get that show. I'm going to tell you one of the secrets, and that really is the overriding one. Before I recorded the first recording, even though I felt inspired, even though I told my team, wow, this is going to be just mega successful, I have no idea how, or why, it just is. I sat down and had a little talk with myself, and I said, okay, if we're going to invest our time and energy, I talked me as we, then you got to be committed. And I made a commitment, and I told my team I was committed to doing this for 3 years or I wasn't going to do it. And I was committed to it being a success. So I think that's a 100% commitment right up front before I recorded the first episode. So I had already claimed, and I do this on a lot of things, and I teach clients to do it. I already claimed my success, but it wasn't just a mystical claiming. It was, I'm committed. So I'm committed to this. So because I was committed, there really was no way to fail. It was already guaranteed it was going to be a mega success because I had made my commitment to succeed.
I made the commitment as well. It wasn't for 3 years. I made the commitment for 12 months. I would not miss an episode. And in month 11, believe it or not, I was very disheartened. I couldn't, I thought I've done all these live webinars. I've done platform speaking, live seminar events when we were actually allowed to meet. $5,000 I would charge people to attend, selling 6-figure coaching. I could do the podcast thing. This is going to be a piece of cake. 11 months it took me before I finally started to figure this out. And I made the commitment. My beautiful and talented Lisa, she's been very supportive, but she's like, why don't you just stop? This is consuming a lot of your time. She wasn't trying to talk me out of it, but she could see that I was discouraged. But I think you're absolutely right here, making the commitment, because had I not made the commitment before I started, I would have stopped.
I want to dig down that just a moment because there's another part to that commitment. I did feel called, and I use those kind of words for purpose because I live in this world and I work with people who want to accomplish what they feel called to do on the planet. I felt that I was supposed to be doing this, And because I felt that, I had just an unwavering passion to get this information out, to interview all these people, to make a difference in everyone who listened to my show. So part of my commitment wasn't just, I'm going to do this or I'm going to have a trophy somewhere. My commitment was to go make a difference in people's lives. And I think that makes a lot of difference when you have a commitment that you're on fire to change somebody else, not you. I think most of us will move houses out of the way to change other people's lives more than we'll move the house to change our own.
Yeah, obviously I started the show. I do the show to help other people because quite honestly, the amount of work that I put in the first...
It's work.
It is a lot of work. People have no idea.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. We're gonna start wrapping it down, but what are you going to be doing 5 years from now? What do you think you'll be doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So 5 years from now, I have targets for where Conscious Millionaire is going to be. We're starting a new show for my global nonprofit. I've already done work in 10 countries. So we'll be moving towards 100 countries, empowering and training 18 to 25-year-olds all over the world to be conscious leaders to answer this one question: how do we build a world in which everybody can win? I think that's the big question that I'm on the planet to answer, even far and beyond everything I do with Conscious Millionaire. To me, they're intertwined, but that's the big question. So that will be built out. And Conscious Millionaire is just going to be extremely mammothly successful. And we're just going to be impacting millions and millions of people's lives. We're going to have so many people in our trainings and our events, and it's going to transform them. That's what I see for 5 years from now.
Millions of more people, because you're already doing that now. You already have...
Yeah, right. We already have millions of people with the podcast, but I really want a lot of people in our trainings, at our events, because when I wrote the book, and it's in the front of the book, I asked myself one night, that's a whole story in itself, what I really wanted to accomplish. And I said, I want to help 1 million people become conscious millionaires. Now that can happen in my lifetime, or is because the movement is so big it continues, because I don't see this as a small movement that I'm building. But that was the kind of impact I wanted to have, is people making money consciously, is doing something they feel matters, is really the heart and soul of this.
Okay, so one last question, and then I want to ask you about your coaching program, because I know the person listening to the show right now is going to be very interested in that. But what's the one question I didn't ask you today that I should have asked?
Well, why I'm no longer eating ice cream.
Why are you no longer eating ice cream?
Because 5 weeks ago, I changed to plant-based eating. I've lost 11 pounds. I had 2 blood pressure medicines from having the heart attack. I've been on blood pressure medicines for 2.5 years. And in 5 days, I was off of my blood pressure medicines completely. I'm eating salmon. In fact, I'm going to have a nice piece of sockeye salmon tonight. So I'm having plant-based, but it's fresh plants, roots, rutabagas, turnips, parsnips, carrots, all that kind of stuff, with brown rice. And that's why I'm no longer eating ice cream, because I just got rid of all that stuff that wasn't right for my body. And it's clear that my body's happy because it's doing all the right things now.
Let me recommend a quick book. You've probably read it. Dr. Michael Greger. He's a leading authority in the world on whole food, plant-based diets. He's a medical doctor. He's unbelievably intelligent, very well-versed. The book is called How Not to Die. It's a fabulous, fabulous book. And I just, personally wanted to recommend it in case you haven't read that. But tell us about your coaching program. I know you've got a couple different ones.
I do. So we're actually going to be starting a third one. We're going to do an event the weekend before November. I'm still negotiating with people about doing that with me. That's going to be called the Business Accelerator event. So I have a program. We're starting a new version of it in a couple of weeks, Business Accelerator Formula. And you can learn more about that at consciousmillionaire.com/business accelerator. It's a live small group program. I lead it all. It's for 5 and early 6-figure entrepreneurs, primarily service businesses, coaches, consultants, business owners, and here's what the program is for. If you want to double your profits, which also means you're going to double your impact in 6 months or less, that's why it's for that specific group. And I take them through 2 weeks of absolutely changing their relationship to money and their mindset and their perception of who they are, because until we do that, we can't upgrade their business model. And then we change the business model and strategies. And then we put together a 90-day plan so that they can go out there and execute. So if you're in the 5 or early 6-figure level, that's the program for you. And it's an incredible investment.
Let me just ask just real quick so we make sure we get this right, and I'll include it in the show notes. Is there a dash between the words Business Accelerator, or is that contiguous?
It's contiguous.
Okay.
Business Accelerator.
What about for my clients? Because I have a lot of the people that listen to this show and my clients specifically are, some of them are, I wouldn't say high 7-figure, but they're definitely solid 7-figure businesses.
Right. So if you're mid 6, typically $500,000 or above and 7-figure, then those are my VIP private clients. I obviously work with a limited number of those. And I work with clients that really want to accelerate. Like I have a client this year, she came to me, she got to $1 million in 18 months, which was phenomenal. And she'll be at $2 million at the end of the year. So I want to work with people who, everyone I work with has to fit the value proposition of wanting to make a positive impact, not just in their life, but in their business. That's what they want me help them design that so that they bring the impact and the profits all together. And they have to really want to grow their business, because my outcome in working with people is that I want to create a tsunami. So this is a little bit different than how a lot of business coaches they just want clients. I want to make a tsunami. And the way I make a tsunami is I work with people who want to create big waves. They want to impact a lot of people's lives. They want to be financially successful so that they can build their business and they get the life that they want. They get that these pieces fit together, and I help them put the pieces together, the mindset, strategy, execution, so they can keep growing and building their business. So the one program is theconsciousmillionaire.com/business accelerator. If you just want to talk to me about your business, you're in that mid 6 or 7-figure, I'm just going to give you my cell phone. I give it out on shows. I've never had one person abuse it. I first gave it out on Hal Elrod's show a year and a half ago, and I haven't stopped it. I do it on my own. And that's 303-641-0401. I'll give you that again. It's 303-641-0401. That's the Denver metro area of Colorado, so it's mountain time. Just text me. Tell me your name. Tell me what do you want to talk about? I get back with everybody. And in fact, I have fun doing it. I just called somebody today and they'd already gone to my site in an hour and figured out how to set up an appointment because it's on the homepage. And people go like, oh my God, is this you calling me? I go, yeah, I said on the show I was going to call you. And I call everybody and we have a chat and I find out, what's going on with your business.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the episode. And with that, I want to just thank you for listening. Thank you for being a subscriber, a member of the Get Clients Now Nation. And if you enjoyed the show and if you feel like the show provided value for you, please go on iTunes and give the show an honest review. All right, we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Our objective with this podcast is to help you and your business stand out in the marketplace by crystallizing your messaging, marketing, and communications. On behalf of the whole Kin Newhouse team, thanks for listening.